Hi, and welcome to another Jen's Jumpstarts tutorial videos. Today we are going to create a layout, but the first thing I wanted to start with is to show you a little technique about using mist. Now, I actually got this technique from some garden girls that I work with at 2P, so I can't take credit for it, but it was genius, so I have to share it. So what you need is some kind of a mist, and I'm using Mr. Huey's Calico Cream. I have a white doily. You can get these at the dollar store in bulk or your favorite craft store. And then this is a craft mat, and it's soft to the touch and it's easy to wash off and it protects my surface. So one way to mist is obviously to spray, but I've been wondering how the designers have been getting the big huge globs of mist, and this is the technique that they use. And so you open up your cap and you kind of swirl it around on the bottom, and then you're going to drop to get the big flecks like that. You can actually touch it to your surface, or you can flick it. And then of course you can always spray. And that gives you a couple of different, you can see the bigger glops and the spray. And then what you need to do is you need to set that aside to dry. So that is just a quick and easy technique for using your mist to get the big glops and sprays that the designers are getting. So let's go ahead and make the layout. So today we're going to make an 8.5 by 11 layout about my son's trip to a local farm and corn maze. And the first thing that I want to do is we are going to stamp this beautiful background stamp from Hero Arts onto cardstock. Now I tend to like American Crafts cardstock and Basil cardstock, and if you're familiar with those two manufacturers, they have a textured cardstock on one side, and then on the other side of the cardstock it is smooth. Now textured cardstock doesn't always take a stamped image very well, and so one way to get a cleaner stamped image is to turn from the textured side to the smooth side, and then you're going to stamp into the smooth side. And if you haven't watched my videos, again, this is a technique I frequently use. I actually place the paper onto the stamp, and then I use a brayer or my fingers to push the paper into the design of the stamp. And I'm just using a tone-on-tone with a yellow on a mustard colored cardstock. And there you have the image. Now for this particular layout, I have cut out and machine stitched around the cardstock piece that we're going to use. And so we'll go ahead and just add that to our layout. When you are machine stitching, one technique is to machine stitch the piece before you lay it down in case you change your mind, because once it's stitched onto the background cardstock, you obviously can't change your mind. Then we'll add some pattern paper to the other side of this stamped edge. This pattern paper is from an 8x8 October Afternoon paper pad. And then we'll just add some craft colored photo corners to each of these top photos corners. Okay, now I have this die cut from my Mind's Eye. I love these pre-made die cuts, and I wanted to dress it up a little bit, so I have some red baker's twine. Now this baker's twine is a little bit different because I don't know if you can tell on camera, but instead of being red with white, it is red with craft, and this comes from the Fun Day collection from my Mind's Eye. And so what we're going to do is I've cut a length, and using these pinked edges we are going to wrap the twine around the card several times and then just tie it off. So this is one quick and easy way to dress up a die cut, is just to add some twine to the project. And then you can just trim off the excess. So see, there you have it there. Like I said, quick and easy way to dress it up. So let's go ahead and bring our doily back in. Now doilies are really fragile, so instead of putting adhesive on the back of the doily, I'm actually going to put it directly onto my layout. We'll just stick it down like that. This is a medium-sized doily. They actually have smaller ones and larger ones. They even have almost full-page ones. Now let's go ahead and adhere the die cut to the page. And I'm going to use glue dots for that. Keep several different kinds of adhesive on hand depending on what it is that I'm adding to my layout. For something that's a little thicker, I use glue dots. For thinner things, I'll use just like a glue runner, things like that. So I've pre-cut some pattern paper banner strips. I'll go ahead and adhere those to the page. This one is from October Afternoon. And don't worry about matching it right up. You can leave a little bit of a gap. And this red dot pattern paper is also from October Afternoon, but just from a different collection. So just shop your stash. These came from my pattern paper stash that I keep, just some extra pieces that I have on hand. Now I have pre-cut this die cut title from my silhouette machine. It actually comes with those letters welded together. And then what I like to do when I am adhering these thin titles is I use a glue pen. This is a Zig glue pen and it has a brush tip. Or I have a Martha Stewart one that's a slightly finer tip. So it's good to keep both tips on hand depending on what you're adhering to your page. And you just paint the adhesive on the back. And it's actually a very strong adhesive. I've been very pleased with how well it's held up over time. So just paint the adhesive on and then stick the die cut down. So we're going to stick that in the center of this doily, right here like that, and we'll overlap the twine just a little bit. So it says every day. Now I have also from an additional My Mind's Eye line, I have some chipboard buttons and pieces, and these are stickers. They have sticky adhesive on the back, so I just peel off the white backing. Or if you don't want the sticky on the back, you can actually peel the layers of the chipboard off and do them however you like. So I'll just stick those down on the layout. When I'm using chipboard, if it doesn't have adhesive, then I will very likely use my glue dots to add heavier pieces like this. Now I have pre-printed and then pre-cut some journaling strips. And I've rubbed the edges with brown stamping ink. And we will go ahead and adhere those before we add our last button. And one cool thing that I like to do is if there are lines on my cardstock or pattern paper or on die cuts, then I will use those lines to make sure that my strips are straight. So that's just one quick tip. So we've added the journaling. Now let's go ahead and add this last little button. Use your pencil to push through the center pieces. Peel off the back. And stick that on. Now I have also printed and cut some photos. These are about 4 by 3 inches. I print at home on a home printer. I have a HP that I print on. And I'm using glue dots again. And I'm just going to stick these casually, not worrying about being super straight, under that blue banner strip. You want to look like they've just kind of been randomly placed. And then I usually use my focal point photo in the center, just to draw the eye to the best photo or the photo that best tells the story. Good. There's something sticking on the back of that. Go ahead and stick these to the bottom. So you can see that. I'll show you a close-up of the title. Now one last thing I want to do is I want to add a few little brads. These are just little white brads from Basic Gray, and we're going to add them to this cardstock thing. When I get to the brad point, I don't mind going through all my layers, but in order to do that I need a foam base. So let me grab that. And then you also need a paper piercer. It's a nice little tool to add to your tool arsenal, and you just poke a hole. The reason why I like a paper piercer as opposed to a craft knife or just a pin is it's a little bit more sturdy and it creates a slightly larger hole. So just stick your brads inside the punched holes. And then turn it over and open those brats. So there you have a 8.5 by 11 farm-based layout using mist to change the color and to splatter on a doily. Join me next time for another Jen's Jumpstarts video. You can visit my blog for all the supplies to create this layout.